This is the tool itself. I'm jumped right into the tool. And what we're seeing here inside of the tool, like I say, this is powered by Cherwell. And so let's just quickly touch on that for a moment. Cherwell, some of you may or may not have heard of Cherwell, but they are kind of classified, if you like, as probably being number 3, if not number 1 in certain analysts' minds, as being, very strong traditionally in IT service management. And we do make a play in surfacing data from service management because, like I say, on that journey to strategic partner, service provider and service management is a key stage in that journey. So it's very, very important that we have to be able to surface that data. We have to refer to service portfolio and service catalog and capabilities inside of our provider organization. In this case, it's IT, but it could be human resources, it could be finance, it could be legal, it doesn't matter. The reason why we've chosen Cherwell is not necessarily because of its IT service management capability, it's actually because of its platform capability and its ability to be configured entirely codelessly. So it as a platform lends itself to that fail-fast mindset because you can experiment with it, you can be agile, you can have fast solutions tested, deployed, taken down, continually improved. And this is an exact example of that I'm showing you today. Okay, this is everything here that you're seeing today is being configured inside of the Cherwell administration tools. So end of plug about Cherwell. But let's now focus right on the capabilities that I've built or we've built inside of this tool. So we have 3 primary entry points into the tool that we're going to talk through today. And these are going to cover off, as I talk through this, we're going to expose strategic business relationship management, we're going to expose value management, we're going to show you the day-to-day activities of how I run as a BRM, what's my workload, what does that look like. We're going to expose how we will manage business initiatives, and we'll expose how we manage that demand and demand shaping and value harvesting. And then finally, we'll show you how all this data is aggregated. It allows you to demonstrate business value, but from the areas, the data points that the business actually cares about. Okay, so this is full convergence, hence its name. This is no longer just alignment, this is convergence with business. Converging our operational activities with strategy. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that report like? So with that said, we've got business awareness, and this is where we catalog that strategy. So as you enter into this part of the system, what you're seeing here is 5 particular entry points here where we can catalog the data that's necessary to understand our business strategy, our smart outcomes, our business outcomes, we classify them as smart outcomes. Who are our business partners? Who are we having relationships with in our business community? How do those smart outcomes that are accountable to those business partners, how are they measured? What are the KPIs that our business partners care about? What are the underpinning capabilities that our business partners deliver day by day by day by day in order to deliver against those smart outcomes which drives that business strategy? And we chart this and we catalog this. And this can either be seeded and imported from data that you might already have. So there are enterprise architecture tools, for instance, that might hold some of this data. You could import this data. You might have some of this data held in spreadsheets. Most likely, this data is held on PowerPoint slides and in people's heads. And that's the sad thing, is that oftentimes business strategy is not cataloged like this. So in actual fact, this allows you as a BRM to add immediate value to your organization, to your C-level individuals and executive suite, as saying, look, we have a capability here that provides governance around strategic planning, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Having this data in play allows you to form strategic relationships and understand business strategy, because without this, you cannot converge with that business strategy. You cannot take an activity and an operational activity inside of IT, inside of HR, inside of finance, wherever it is, you cannot converge that activity with this business strategy unless it's documented, unless it's charted, unless it's catalogued, and that's what we're doing here. So behind all of this is every one of these icons you see here will be a summary dashboard. So if I click here, for instance, this is a summarized dashboard for business strategy and objectives. So for instance here I can see that Eric Lambert is sponsor of two particular strategies. So we have the ability to just drill into that data and start charting it and start working on that data. I'll just step back a little bit. So those charts and dashboards here are available throughout the system. So for instance here, if I click on this one about business partnering, this allows me to see a summarized view of my business relationships with my partners. So how many business units do I have currently in this database? Very few, it's only sample demo data. How many do I have a shared vision with? Now the shared vision, the relationship characteristics, the measures, the principles, this is directly linked to the models in the relationship, the business relationship management's body of knowledge. Okay, so this is where we've aligned the tool to that BRMBOK and taken sample models and built them in here and effectively toolify that body of knowledge. And I can see here what reviews I have to do. I can see here the partner experience, the customer experience, if you like, of my business partners. I can see what that feels like. I can gauge that and see what are the concurrent complaints from my business partners that I need to be aware of. This is very interesting data. I'm just going to draw your attention to some of this data. Not all of it, because it will take me probably till this time tomorrow to go through this entire system. But what we're seeing here is this data here is actually incident management data that's surfaced from service management, from the service desk. But we're surfacing it in a way that is in business language, because incidents will have one form or another some form of business impact. We don't want incidents to be occurring. That's a failure of service delivery of one form or another that we need to rectify or work around very, very quickly. So we need to recognize that that's happened, but we report it in such a way that we understand that that's business process or business capability, productivity that's been impacted, and we're monitoring that through the activity on the service desk. So we're surfacing that data up from service management, but we're surfacing up in a very much more business-oriented language and a means of being able to have very concise business-led discussions with our business partners. So we have those dashboards across the entire system. I'm just going to go back into that business awareness section just one more time. So for instance, I'm going to just drill into one particular record that I'll probably refer to throughout this demo. You'll have to, like I say, see through the demo data that I'm using here, because I recognize, and through our engagements through our various demos and one-to-one demos and our market testing, that business relationship management spans, all different types of businesses, from public sector to charity to blue chip. And so my sample data here can't possibly cater for all those different sectors. So I'm going to pick on a particular record here that's a business objective. It's a strategic objective that's being set. And this particular one is a revenue growth objective. We have a revenue growth objective up by 30%. We have some target date, start date, target attainment date. That's linked to a primary KPI. We have an annual commercial value that's associated to that. We have also other value plans that we can link to that. So we can catalog. This is where the governance comes in around strategic planning. We can actually say, well, look, we've got this strategic plan, with the strategic intent, what value actually are we going to get from that? So we start to, this is where governance starts to come in. We can also chart here and link the supporting smart outcomes that will support that business objective. We understand the KPIs, we can understand the various initiatives that we are undertaking in support of that objective. We can understand every single business relationship management engagement, every meeting, every workshop, every water cooler conversation that we might have had with Eric Lambert in this case. We could go back and record that as an engagement and make sure that we're collecting that data, because that engagement that we do surfaces ideas. It's kind of exploring, which is one of the disciplines of business relationship management, of course. And so engagements is a critical piece that we do. But we can link those engagements that we have back up to the strategic objective. Now all this can be, we record this, we chart this, it has life cycle, we have ownership around it, we have categorization around it, and we link all the various other record types like outcomes, for instance. So we can chart this also graphically. Now this is not just a pretty picture of this data, it's actually a means of interacting with this data. I can right mouse click and take shortcut actions if I wanted to do so on that particular record. I could export this, I could drill into this data and just start navigating through it. I could quickly view that particular record. So these pictures, these graphics here are not just pretty pictures, they're means of being able to visualize, to interact with this data. It's so important. So I can see here straight away, picture says 1,000 words. We have a revenue growth objective. We have 2 supporting business outcomes. Those business outcomes are owned by 2 particular business units. They're accountable to those outcomes, and we have our primary contacts inside of those business units that we can do business with. And again, I can just quickly view those records. So that's the person record here, just bringing up for Eric Lambert. And I can again see all the engagements that I've had with Eric, so on and so forth, okay? So it's all about, as you can see in the tool, it's very much about data relationship. It's very, very important, and that is why, again, we use the Cherwell toolset, because it's so strong in data relationship management. That just lends itself perfectly to the role of business relationship management. We have these different ways of summarizing and viewing data. We also have a way, I'm going to jump forward a little bit because I'm through here, we can do an analysis dashboard. We'll actually see this again through the value reporting. But what we're seeing here is a dashboard specifically about that objective. We can see here, okay, here's our revenue growth up by 30% objective. How's our current business performance? That comes from the linked primary KPI and the fact that we're tracking that KPI with our business partner. If I'm an IT business relationship management and I'm truly acting as a true business relationship management should do, I have a stake in both sides of the camp. I have a foot in my provider organization, in this case it might be IT, and I have a foot in my partner organization, in which case this will be sales and marketing, that have this particular revenue growth objective. I care about both sides of the coin, if you like. And in fact, if I'm being an amazing business relationship manager, I should have a further leg, if there is such a possible outcome, in the customer, in the customer's view of our organization, and being able to surface up ideas and opportunities from being out there doing field research. So it's really important that we have these business collective conversations, and these types of dashboards, this type of surfacing of data allows us to have those business-led conversations and engagements with our business partners. And just while I'm here, what you can see here, we've got business performance, we've got business enablers. So this is very much a conversation with my sales and marketing team, that we're having those business-led conversations. We have the underlying business processes and capabilities, still business-led conversation. But down here, we're now talking about provider conversation. Okay, so this is now, what initiatives are we doing as a provider that we're working towards that actually are linked right back to that objective? What improvements are we undertaking? Our continual service improvement, CSI, around service management. What are we doing that links directly back to this objective? What planned changes did we do in service management that had a direct correlation back to this strategic objective, and so on? And business impact and management of risk, the exposure of incidents off the service desk, and those unplanned emergency changes that we didn't want to happen, but they happened, and we have to recognize that that happened. And this is about transparency, remember. If we're going to have relationships, we have to have great transparency and expose this data. All of that we're seeing there is all cataloged and those facilities to surface that data and so on is all cataloged through that entry point there. Strategy, outcomes, our partners, our capabilities, and our measures. There's one more thing I just want to show you in here, and that's specifically covering off those strategic relationships. If I just dig into this record here, which is my business unit or my business partner record for sales and marketing, this is where I can go out here and say, look, here's the primary contact for that particular business unit. I am the business relationship manager that has the relationship with that particular primary contact and that business unit. But I also have a supporting relationship team that's working with me or alongside me, so I can understand what that team looks like. There is this relationship strategy on a page stuff that we've charted, okay? So we've understood that we've got that relationship strategy on a page. We've got that shared vision that we've got down here. We understand the capabilities. We've done some capability mapping against that particular business partner. Okay, so we chart those capabilities. We understand their outcomes. We've recorded those as outcomes. We understand what KPIs they're concerned about. What drives them? What gets them up in the morning and to deliver upon those business outcomes? What KPIs are they concerned with? Who are all the other contacts inside of the sales and marketing team? So this is very much now that strategic relationship management capability. Who might be the suppliers that we have inside of IT that have directly formed a relationship with our business units, or the business unit may have formed that relationship directly, and so we need to embrace that shadow IT thing. Let's not shy away from it, because actually if that drives forward our business intents, we should be embracing it. And we should be saying, that's a good thing that you've got a direct relationship with that supplier of those services. Wonderful. We understand that. We get it. How can we augment that and supplement that with what we do? There might be relationships between business units to business units. All those engagements that I spoke about earlier, and we'll see an engagement in a second. What IT services that we currently have in the portfolio that are active are consumed by this. So now we're exposing that IT service portfolio, that ability to say, we provide these services, we have these capabilities, we have these products. How are they being consumed at the business unit level? And all the way through, risks, improvements, experience, history, what was that customer experience, and our business initiatives. So we're cataloging and linking all this data up together. And again, what we can do is visualize all of this. So here's a visualization of the organization structure inside of that sales and marketing team. What are the business outcomes that they care about? And again, we can navigate, we can do other things with this data. What are their business capabilities that they have? We can map and chart through that. And again, we can do an analysis dashboard. I'll just let that surface the data. And so there is the dashboard. We can go and have that meeting with sales and marketing, with Eric, and say, hey Eric, we're here, we understand you, we've got this covered, we've got your back, we're working together, we have this relationship, we understand your people, we understand your business capabilities, but we understand that actually a service provider in IT has got incidents open and by different statuses. For these different capabilities, we get it, we understand what's going on, and we can advocate on that on their behalf. That, of course, would be translated into $ or yen or whoever where this is deployed to. What transformation activities are we undertaking? What business outcomes do you care about? What business impact have we had in IT and we're working towards and managing towards? So we can have all that conversation based on surfacing all of that data up. That's all under business awareness. Let's now look briefly at our business BRM processes. I've mentioned engagements, so let's quickly look at an engagement. An engagement is where we have kind of like a catch-all. It's like, I've done something, we've had a meeting, we've had a conversation, I'm doing some field research. I'm doing some research behind the scenes. I'm not actually meeting anybody, but I'm doing some research. I'm doing some exploring behind the scenes. I need to record this. I need to allocate my time. I need to show value as a BRM. Engagements is a wonderful way of doing that. Engagements here, again, if I just drill on the business engagement summary, we have different types of engagements that we're doing. We have, like I say, workshops, how many walk-ins, how many meetings we had, some field research. We might be doing an engagement or like an exploring engagement. And I can get to this very quickly as well. I can be anywhere in the system. So I might be here. I'll just go somewhere else, just sort of randomly kind of pick somewhere else I can be in the system. Let's just go out into business awareness back. And I might be maybe at the smart outcomes dashboard. Okay, so I can be somewhere randomly in the system, and I can, at any time, I can just bring up this, what's called the heads-up display. And this heads-up display tells me what activities I've got going on right now, but within this context, so my review schedule, my relationship review schedule, my to-do in terms of engagements that might need to be updated, complaints that I haven't looked at, bad me, there's flashing up red here, I need to get on and do some stuff here. So I need to keep an eye on all of this stuff, and I can do this at any time, but I can just quickly just go new engagement, bang, just like that, and just say, hey, it's a new engagement. What type of engagement is it? Well, it might be an exploring. I might be doing some background exploring type of research. It might be out there in the field with our customers, doing some field research. I might be running a workshop. So let's say we're running a workshop, and I can say, okay, who am I running this workshop with or for? Well, it's our guy, Eric, in sales. Okay, so I've linked that straight into the sales and marketing department here, the business unit sales and marketing. What are the other contacts that were involved in that particular engagement? So I can link in other contacts into that particular engagement. So there's a bunch of people down here in sales and marketing. So I'll say Melanie, and I'll say Carrie. That will do. So boom, straight away, just for this particular engagement in this workshop, we were engaged with 3 particular individuals. Now, the reason why that's important to be able to track that is if I look at the Carrie person record, if I navigated out and looked at Carrie Wang's person record, I would see that there was an engagement with Carrie Wang, and it would link me back to this engagement 43. So everything all ties back. Everything is converged inside of the tool. We link one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So it gives you that holistic view of your world. So these are my engagement notes and actions. Okay, so I just kind of, and this is stuff you typically would put into Word, or you may even choose to email this stuff in, because there is an email interface to an engagement, this engagement capability. So you might just email engagements at, and it will create this stuff automatically for you. Let's just go in here and say action 1, action 2, yada, 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 right? I might have an action here that needs info from another team. You can see where this is going to go. There's an action here that's been put on me as part of that engagement, but I don't know the answer. We're an orchestrator, right? That's what we do as business relationship managers. We orchestrate, we connect people, we engage with the right people to get the right answers to deliver the right outcome. That's what we do. So what I can do is just highlight this, and I can say, look, I don't know the answer to this, but I need help to get it. So I'm going to create a topic for somebody. And what a topic is like a sub-engagement. It's like a means of just being able to assign an activity or a piece of work out to somebody specifically. So I can say, okay, it's not for me. I'm going to assign this out to somebody else. So I'm going to assign this out to a different team. And maybe I need something from IT management. So I'll assign it out to the Gina, who's the head of IT management. Okay, so Gina, I need something from you. And now that will appear on Gina's work list. That will be on Gina's queue as an engagement topic for her to come back to me. And so I have this ability to track this all the way through. I can see there's my engagement. Here are all my topics that I've assigned out. Who was the engagement with? What other contacts were in that engagement, this workshop? What suppliers were involved? I can link all of this, and I can say, well, what objective, what initiatives was this engagement associated to? And once again, we can visualize this. We can say, look, who were involved. Engagement is a means of being able to track all activity, essentially, that doesn't fit one of these others. So if it's a complaint, for instance, so this is very much tipping the hat to a more IT service management definition of a business relationship management, far more tactical, but remember this is still important, it's part of that journey. There's a need for management of complaints, and in terms of an overview of complaints and oversight of complaints and monitoring of complaints. There's a complaints management process in there. I'll just show you very quickly what that complaint might look like. So there's a whole complaints workflow and a whole complaints process that sits inside of the tool. We won't go into all of that, but it's sitting in there ready to use. There is risk and service improvement through registers. That sits in here as part of the tool. So we might choose that we need to highlight a risk, a business risk. So we track that. It's part of our governance that we're doing as a BRM that highlights and tracks business risk. So we can link that risk and we can link that to the primary business outcome, and we can associate those risks to outcomes and see how that all sits together. There is risk in there, and the management of risk. And that, like I say, that also covers service improvement as well inside of that same piece. We have demand shaping. I'll get to that in 2 seconds. And value harvesting. That I will also get to in 2 seconds because that is fundamentally linked to demand shaping. Let's look at that now. So my point is, if what you are doing isn't an initiative on shaping demand, isn't a risk or service improvement, isn't a complaint, isn't a means of value harvesting value, it's something else, it sits in engagement. It's the catch-all place to sit and capture your engagements. And like I say, it covers many different things. So let's now quickly look at demand shaping, and then we'll be looking close to wrapping up on the tool. So this is a summary dashboard of our business initiatives, and this helps us shape demand. We're able to track through and through our initiative process, and our initiative process is a direct mimic of the value management process as defined in the business relationship management body of knowledge. So we do directly correlate to that body of knowledge value management process, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is summarized data that's coming out of all of those initiatives. So we can very quickly see how we're going to shape out demand based on risk and value. If we've got stuff that's kind of high risk and very low value, well, really, do we want to be looking at that? No, probably not. I'd be rather focused on the ones that are high value, lower risk. But we can help using this data and using this analysis is understand where to focus our attention. What investment class are we going to be using in terms of the investment needed on these business initiatives? Here are all those initiatives. What's the return on investment that we're charting against those initiatives? What's the throughput of these initiatives through the various stages through the value management process? And who are our initiatives for? What business unit and business partner are we conducting our initiatives with? Let's just drill into one, and I'll show you an initiative in action, if you like. This is a business initiative, number 5,000. It's got its name here. It's at its current stage of monitoring values. It's got its stakeholder. It's got a relationship manager that's linked to this initiative, that's tracking this. And this one is currently at the monitor values stage. It's gone all the way through these core steps in the process and is now at the back end of monitoring values, in which case we have value harvesting taking place. But let's just understand where it's come through, what process it's come through. It's come through ideation. So right at the front end, it's kind of like saying, well, what's the purpose of this? What are we trying to achieve? What's the intended type of outcome that we're trying to get to from this initiative? Just high-level stuff. Is this actually a new strategic initiative? Because we can use business initiative to define strategic initiatives. Again, that's that governance around strategic planning. We can use this to say, well, no, we're going to be using an initiative. This initiative is going to increase revenue. It's going to reduce cost. It's going to enhance the customer experience. It's going to support another strategic objective. This is just a lookup table. You can set these values. We describe here what our reasons are for doing this initiative, what's in scope, what's out of scope, what does a future state look like, and so on. From that, we then track the high-level change plan. What does this look like from an organizational change perspective? Who are our users and our stakeholders? We track that down here. You've seen how we link data to other record types in what I've shown you before. So we can just link in who are our stakeholders, who are our sponsors, who are our approvers that we will need as part of this particular initiative. What business processes or capabilities will be affected by this particular initiative, or enhanced, preferably? What impacted services? We supply a service, many services to this particular business unit. Well, are we going to impact one of those existing services? Yes, we might. Infrastructure. Is this going to affect a product or a system or other form of configuration item that, again, the service management folks look after inside of the CMDB? Are we going to impact and have any impact on their projects and so forth? What's the value plan? Value planning, so important. This is where we can link this to a strategic objective, and we can also chart all the individual other benefits and values that we are thinking that we're going to, or we're forecasting that we're going to get from this initiative. What's our business case? So we have a tab around business case. This is where we apply the costs. This is where we apply the investment model. This is where we also build out an automatic risk profile based on our high-level change plan. We go through approval. We go through into implementation, so we can track IT projects. So here's a capability that I've downloaded from Cherwell called IT project tracking. So I've incorporated that, but you might have your own project tracking software. We can pull that data in. So we track it all the way through, like I say, all the way out to monitor values. And monitor values, if I just look here at the value realization tab at the bottom, what we do here is we create a value harvesting record for every single type of value that we said we were going to forecast. We create a value harvesting record on the back end to say, you forecasted this, you better go and achieve it. You better go and say, look, you set the target date when you were going to get this value. Well, let's go out there and make sure we actually got it. Or if we didn't get it and we got value leakage, let's track that as well. So we track all of that, and of course that is one of the core disciplines of business relationship management, which is value harvesting. That's our business initiative and demand shaping, and how we see that falling through into value harvesting as well, all covered off in the one area. Finally, value reporting. I've already shown you value reporting, which is why I'm not too concerned that I've left it quite late, because value reporting is where we were able to do that analysis at an individual data point level. We were able to do the analysis of an individual partner, an outcome, a strategic objective, a capability. So I'll just do one more here. If you recall, when I was doing that analysis from the record, for instance here, if I've got a capability called opportunity management, that capability is undertaken by sales and marketing. And so of course here's that analysis here to say, look, here's opportunity management. What outcomes does it drive? What are the enablers of that particular capability, that business capability? These are services in IT, suppliers, other infrastructure, the CRM system. What transformation activities, what business impact activities have we done at an operational level that directly correlate and converge with that particular capability. With that said, it is now coming towards, my clock here says 17:23, which obviously I'm working in UK time, but we're coming around to the half past. So I think with that, John, are you there? Can I turn it back over to you to see if we've got any Q&A? And I hope that what you've seen has been enlightening and you've liked what you've seen. Also looking for feedback, and we're building this out to really support you guys and this need and this urgent need to assist with digital transformation management and what that looks like and your work. Thank you for listening.